Today, we'll go through the introduction and the science behind it, real life experiences, which I have mentioned that I will share, and the how of forgiveness. So, the introduction. So, psychologists generally define forgiveness as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance toward a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness. And forgiveness, very importantly, also includes self-forgiveness, forgiving of the self. So it's not about whether the other person or the other group deserves your forgiveness. It is about with you deciding to forgive them. Okay. What is forgiveness? What is it not? Forgiveness does not mean that you're forgetting what someone has done, or you're condoning or excusing their offenses. Okay. You do not have to deny the seriousness of an offense against you. Somebody has done something really bad against you. You don't have to whitewash it and say, oh, it wasn't all that bad. That's not what forgiveness is about. Okay. Forgiveness can help repair a damaged relationship, but it doesn't obligate you to reconcile with the person who harmed you or release them from legal accountability. So what this means is, of course, forgiveness can help you repair a damaged relationship, and that's called reconciliation. But it does not have to do that, because if the other person is not willing for a reconciliation, that may not happen. But that does not mean that we do not have to forgive, okay, or we cannot forgive that person. But they also does not release that person from legal accountability. There was a story here of a driver who was drunk or under the influence of drugs, who took his vehicle, drove his car, and hit into four children who were standing in the side of the street. 3 of them from one family and 1 of them their cousins. So this family lost 3 of their children. Okay, but it was such even a racially charged issue, because it was Middle Eastern kids who were killed, and the parents chose to forgive. The parents chose to forgive that man without holding anything back. But that did not release him from his legal accountability. He had to go through the courts. He had to go through the court system, because that is a different matter. But you can forgive even without having to release them from the legal accountability. Okay. So forgiveness instead brings the forgiver peace of mind and frees him or her from corrosive anger. So when we harbor hurt, when we harbor a lot of these negative emotions, it is corrosive. What is corrosion? Like when you look at iron rusting, you can see it gets corroded. The iron itself gets powdered, and it wears away. So this is what corrosive anger means. So when we forgive, it brings us the peace of mind and frees ourselves from the corrosive anger. Okay. Now, the benefits of forgiveness, we'll just briefly go through that. Okay. Letting go of grudges and bitterness can make way for improved health and peace of mind. Forgiveness can lead to healthier relationships, improved mental health, less anxiety, stress, and hostility, fewer symptoms of depression, lower blood pressure, a stronger immune system. This is very important, a stronger immune system, improved heart health, and improved self-esteem. Okay. Now let's just briefly go into the science. So studies have found that the act of forgiveness can reap huge rewards for your health. It actually lowers the risk of heart attacks, improves cholesterol levels and sleep. It reduces pain, blood pressure, our levels of anxiety, depression, and stress. And research points to an increase in forgiveness health connection as we age. That means the older we get, this has a stronger correlation. Chronic anger puts you into a fight or flight mode. You know what happens when we are in a fight or flight mode. Our cortisol levels increases, adrenaline increases, and this results in a change in our heart rate, our blood pressure, and our immune response. These changes can increase our risk for depression, heart disease, diabetes, and autoimmune conditions. Forgiveness, however, calms our stress levels and leads to improved health. I'm just briefly going to there are plenty of studies, and we're briefly going to two studies here. One was a study, it's a cardiovascular disease study. It looked at the effects of forgiveness intervention on patients with coronary artery disease. Okay, so 32 patients were given a baseline rest test and an anger recall stress imaging studies. So when they were baseline at rest, and then they were asked to recall something that induced anger with them, and they did two sets of studies. Okay, after the 32 patients, 17 demonstrated anger recall stress induced myocardial perfusion defects. Myocardial perfusion defects means the perfusion of the heart was impaired in the anger recall stress imaging studies. So these 17 people, because that proved that these people were susceptible to these anger recall stress. Okay, so these 17 were randomly assigned into two groups, and one group got 10 weekly interpersonal forgiveness therapy sessions. Okay, so the one group got the interpersonal forgiveness therapy sessions for 10 weeks, and the control had control therapy sessions, both with a trained psychologist. The patients assigned to the forgiveness group showed significantly fewer anger recall induced myocardial perfusion defects from pre-test to the 10-week follow-up. See, so they were actually able to demonstrate this in the myocardial perfusion, in how the blood supply went to the heart. Okay, so this is very significant. And then we have studies that have informed this particular year. This is from a book called Forgiveness and Health, the Scientific Evidence and Theories Relating to Forgiveness to Better Health. The role of forgiveness in chronic pain and fibromyalgia. I think you will recall that I did mention that I had fibromyalgia. Okay, so let us look at the right side, where we look at the sources of stress. Early childhood events have a huge role to play in our health, and especially diseases that do have an emotional background to it. So childhood adversity, workplace healthcare stigmatization, it could be issues with our spouse, it could be issues with our family, it could be with our physicians. These are the sources of the stress, okay? And there are different coping strategies. The forgiveness of the self and others. You can forgive yourself, you can forgive your spouse, you can forgive your family, you can forgive physicians. And we can see that when forgiveness increases, there is improved health, less amount of pain, less amount of debilitation, and increased quality of life. And when forgiveness decreases, increased pain, increased debilitation, and decreased quality of life, altogether poorer health. And when forgiveness decreases, again, when our coping strategies aren't good enough, that in itself causes a source for stress. Okay. And when forgiveness decreases, it affects the nervous system, causing dysregulation and the HPA impairment. Okay. And you can see these arrows going. When the sources of stress increases, that again causes nervous system dysregulation. And when the nervous system dysregulation happens, it causes disorders like fibromyalgia and chronic widespread pain. So this is like a vicious circle. When one part of the balance is not in balance with everything else, it causes a lot of different aspects. It's leading on to bad health. So this is a conceptual model of the stressful consequences of fibromyalgia and chronic widespread pain, and the role of forgiveness as a coping mechanism that positively impacts health. Now I'm going to come to two real life experiences where I will share with you. The first was a patient who came to me, a client who came to me. She was a 38-year-old lady. She was a mother of two young, beautiful daughters, and she came to me with so many different autoimmune conditions. Her kidneys weren't working very well. She had widespread pain in her body. Her pain score was 9/10. She had thyroid dysfunction. It was querying Addison's disease. And low vitamin D levels, a whole host of problems. And main thing was she lost all her self-confidence. She was a lady who used to drive from when she was very young. But once she started becoming debilitated with her pain and everything, she just did not feel confident even to drive and to drop her children to school or anything. So her life was really getting limited and limited just to her house. So what I did is, as I usually do, I took a very in-depth history, and over the course of a few weeks, what came to light is she had been abused when she was a child. When she was very young, she had been abused by a relative. And ever since then, and ever since she had even mentioned it to her mother, she was made to feel that she was the cause, she was the reason, she was at fault. Okay, so she just couldn't get that out of herself. Not only was she the victim, but she blamed herself for what she went through. So this was a very vicious, deep-seated thing. It took a lot of sessions for her to come to grips that she was, one, she was just a child. Two, she could not possibly have been the cause of what she went through. And three, to forgive that other person and to move on. But eventually, she slowly regained her self-worth. And for this, we have graded physical activity, graded activities, not just physical activity, things to improve her self-worth, focusing on aspects of her life that she had talents in and getting her to focus on that and improving in skill levels in those to improve her self-worth. Then, of course, we had to go through the whole process of helping her forgive that entire situation, not just the perpetrator of the sexual abuse, but also her parents, her mother, and her family situation that made her feel so guilty. So it was a lot of different kinds of forgiveness that needed to have gone. But surprisingly, by the end of 8 weeks, she reported that her pain levels came down to 2 upon 10. And that was amazing because the only thing perhaps that she would have started taking was vitamin D, but the emotional release and relief that she got was immense. She started driving and her pain levels also came down. So that was amazing. So that's the power of forgiveness and the power of self-love as well. Next, it's a story of a 21-year-old. She came to me with type 1 diabetes. Her mother brought her to me with type 1 diabetes. So this young girl developed type 1 diabetes towards the later half of her teenage years when she was 17, 18. And it was not really well controlled and she was struggling with it. We all believe that type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition and we really cannot do anything much about it. But I took the time and effort to actually sit her down and talk to her and walk through, because having such a late onset autoimmune type diabetes is not really that very common. Her story was one that many people in our own homes might be going through that we do not know. She was bullied from the time she entered high school. She was bullied in different shapes and forms, not something huge that we might think, oh, this was severe bullying, not physical. It was much of emotional bullying, feeling left alone, loneliness, different other issues. But while we worked through those painful moments of feeling of shame and different aspects of that, and I do something called replacement therapy, where we replace a painful emotion with a happy emotion. So working through aspects of forgiveness and working through the emotional trauma that she went through and replacing it with happier thoughts and positive thoughts helped a great deal. Of course, there was the nutritional part of it and everything, but she was able to better control her type 1 diabetes, reduce her insulin levels, and actually get into a much better state of control. We did not completely reverse it. It was not that wasn't on the cards, but a greater level of control in her and management happened as a result of that. Now, coming to the aspect of forgiveness, and because this is about spirituality, there is a program called the Unbound. It was brought forward by a person called Neil Lawson. I come from a Christian background, so this program called Unbound is based on the what Christ said on the cross. They do not know what they are doing, so Father, forgive them. So if anybody is interested, you can search up Unbound and you can go in through there. It's about deliverance and forgiveness and things like that. But for the purpose of today's talk, let's go. So forgiveness starts in the heart. Okay, I'm not sure who is actually scribbling on the screen. Someone is. Okay, so the things that are buried in darkness have the greatest influence on us. The things we have never told anyone. Okay, so when we sit to dig deep and find out, are there aspects within us that have been buried, that we have buried in darkness? We can ask the higher power, if we believe in a higher power, show me my heart. Show me what I have suppressed. Show me what I have hid. Show me what I have buried in darkness. The things we have never told anyone, because time and again I have clients come to me revealing things to me that they have never ever told a single soul. And these may be people in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. Just imagine how many decades they have been carrying these burdens within them without being able to open up, without feeling that there is a space, there's a safe space to open up and bring it out and get healing. I had a very great classical dancer come to me. She came to me. Her problem was, because I do a bit of life coaching, not just health coaching. So she came to me with the issue that she wants to get back on stage and dance, but something is preventing her. So we went through several sessions, and then it was revealed again. It started from her childhood, where she was a great performer, but she used to be scolded by her mother so much. And there were aspects of being abused as well. And she was 56, and she had never revealed this to anybody in her life. And helping her through all of that actually helped release the buried darkness and empowered her enough to get back on stage and perform at the age of 56. So there are so many breakthroughs that we can have in our current life. It does not just have to be with our health. It can be in our personality in different aspects through forgiveness and reconciliation. So a term I would like to introduce to you is metanoia. It's a change of mind that leads to a change in action. A change of mind that leads to a change in action. Okay, just remember that. Now, I'm just going to briefly go into 12 obstacles for forgiveness that we can all have. One is we refuse to forgive. I don't want to forgive. That person did something too bad to me. I don't want to forgive. Okay, very valid. Second is a lack of faith. We don't think it is possible. I really don't think I can forgive him. I can't forgive her. Third is a lack of awareness. We are not aware that we have a need to forgive. And that comes from, because maybe we just, oh, it happened, and we just try to brush it under the carpet. So we are not really aware that that is still a wound within us. Next is we minimize our need to forgive. It is similar to that. We think, oh, that's not really such a big thing, you know. We fear forgiveness because we misunderstand what it means. We might think that forgiveness means reconciliation, or I need to trust that person again, or I need to see that person and talk to that person again, and all of that. It does not necessarily mean that. Forgiveness is an act of the will. It is not a feeling. It is my decision. It's not a feeling. It's not an emotion. 6 is we fail to take responsibility. 7 is we transfer, project offense onto others. We don't take it. If we have done something wrong, we transfer and project offense onto others. 8 is we cannot forgive ourselves. 9 is we are not yet ready. 10, we think we have already forgiven, but there are small little claws like a cancer's claws still holding on to us. 11 is we have false expectations. And 12, which is very important, I've seen this in many of my near and dear ones, we have the victim identity. We have been wrong. Okay, people have committed crimes against us. People have destroyed our mental peace. It might be our childhood, but we feel we are the victim. We have been the victim, but we embrace that victim identity. We embrace the helplessness and the powerlessness. This has been done to me. All these negative things keep happening to me. All these bad things keep happening to me. I'm not getting a break in my life. And we, with our words and our actions, reinforce this victim mentality and identity to others. We allow another person's misdeeds to determine our life. Just imagine another person is doing you wrong and you are allowing that person's misdeeds to determine your life. Forgiveness here allows us to take back our power and our life. You are not a victim when you decide that you're not going to allow that person to continue to victimize you. Because just the thought that I had been made a victim, I was hurt, and that destroyed me, and that's all I'm worthy for, or that's all I'm capable for, will keep us in that victim identity and will not really benefit us and help us to move forward if we want to move forward. Okay, so the journey. Okay. I know that we're all practitioners, but if you would like to, you can just go along with me. You can grab a journal, you can take a notebook or something and just go along. So it begins with show me my heart, as we said. The things buried in darkness have the greatest influence on us, the things we have never told anyone. But how do we find them? Actually, journaling helps. And for my clients, what I ask them to do is this, especially my autoimmune clients. I tell them, I want you to go back to that point in life from your 0 to 5-year-old. If you have any memories of what people have told you, what your mother went through or what your family went through when you were in your mother's womb, make a note of that as well. When you were in your mother's womb, if your mother has told you or your father has told you what hardships they were going through, problems they were going through, make a note of that. If not, whatever you can recall from your 0 to 5, write it each one. So here what you have to recall is what were the instances and incidences that caused an emotional response from you. It is not the gravity, it is not how big the situation was. It could be a small thing. Maybe your mom scolding you in front of a stranger, in front of somebody saying, oh, go change your dress and come. You have put on a bad dress. You're not looking pretty. It might be something as simple as that. But if it made a big impact in your heart, if you felt hurt, if you felt ashamed, those are the kinds of things that you need to start writing down. So go stage by stage, 0 to 5. Go through your thought process. And if you're a spiritual person, you can ask God, God, reveal to me, show me my heart, and write down one. Then it's your school age, from your age of 5 to 10, your primary school, 5 to 10. What happened in your lives? You may be 70 or 80, doesn't matter. You need to go through this. Then from 10 to 15, your adolescent years, when you were growing up, when you were maturing. This part, this 0 to 15, is the most important part of your life, where you really need to dig deep and find out all these instances of hurt that requires forgiveness. Then, of course, as you move forward into your adulthood, things will be a little more easier for you to remember. You can make a note of those things as well. You make a note of all the hurts and the pain received. And it's not about looking back and trying harder. It's not that, oh, I'm going to try to become a better person. It's not anything about that. It's not about judging yourself or judging your parents or judging your relatives. It's not about judging anyone. Okay, now, the key thing here is to forgive is a decision. Okay, now we know when an incident happens, when a fact happens, somebody gives you a hit, tish, on your hand. Now, if it's a friendly person and you know that person is just tapping you out of love, you don't really get upset about it, right? The fact is you got a hit, but you're not upset about it. But if you feel that that person gave you a hit out of anger or that person was being malicious, then the emotion it generates within you is different, right? So our memories get embedded because of the emotion. Hurt happens because of the emotion. It is not just the fact. Okay. The same fact might happen in different scenarios. You will not get the same emotion. But the emotion of pain, of anger, of hurt, all those emotions help embed your memory. Okay. Emotions associated with the incident have great power. Okay. This is very important. And then there is great power in letting go. Excuse me. So what I'm trying to say is, when we go back into our memories and we have made a list, we need to try and identify what is the emotion I felt. When this happened, what did I feel? Shame? Did I feel pain? Did I feel hurt? Did I feel angry? Identify your emotion, because the emotion is what is holding you captive. So something that I do in my therapy sessions is I ask them, once we identify some of the key emotional blockages, to replace or substitute this emotion by something more happy and joyful. So if going on stage gave you stage fright, you replace it with an emotion where you had been in the public domain and you had got a lot of applause and people were cheering you on. So try and remember positive emotion and try to layer it on the painful emotion. That is one way you can go. Next is letting go of the pain. You look at the root cause of the pain objectively, with compassion to yourself and everyone. So have compassion. Think of what the other person might have been going through when this happened. What was the background of it? Okay. Empathizing with the other person, removing the emotion aside and empathizing with the other person. This helps you lessen the weight and let go. Okay. That's letting go of the pain. Now, the key thing here is, how do we learn self-forgiveness? We may be able to forgive others with enough time and enough practice. But one key area we need to learn is also self-forgiveness. There are many things in our lives that we feel, maybe mainly with regard to our children, we feel maybe we could have done better in different aspects with our parents. But identifying those self-recriminations where you find fault with yourselves and letting go and forgiving yourself is also very important. So before we go to that here, the key thing that we need to remember is, you deserve the release and empowerment that you will receive through forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't about another person. It is about setting yourself free. It sets yourself free. So what you can do practically for forgiveness is, as I said, remembering those hurtful occasions and making a conscious decision. Take one by one and saying that within your mind, you might be in a place of darkness when you visualize that hurt and the emotion. But imagine you're standing within a room that is full of darkness, but you can see your pain, you can see your hurt, you can see all those emotions there. Imagine the top of that room is opening up and there's a giant light pouring into that room. Into the darkness, you see this light flowing through. And imagine while that light is flowing through, that you're actually forgiving and releasing this person, this group of people, the people who have hurt you. One by one, release each person and that incident around your hurt into this light that is coming into that room. And then it vaporizes. All this darkness is taken up by the light, and your hurt and pain and everything is taken up. And what exists there is forgiveness at the end of it. And do this with each and every incident that you can find that you have written down in your list. And the results can be phenomenal, because you deserve the release and empowerment that you will receive through forgiveness. Many a time we find that people, even in their professional domain, I talked to you about the dancer. Maybe I will also talk to you about a doctor who had come to me. He was working in a very prestigious medical college, but having difficulty in communicating and holding his ground among his colleagues and peers. He felt he wasn't being listened to. He felt sidelined. He felt humiliated many a times and not given the right position to speak and space to speak. He had issues with his co-workers. He's a genuine, wonderful gentleman. We started our therapy sessions, and through the sessions, we understood that the root cause of it was held in his relationship with his father. It had been decades since he spoke to his father, and his father was a very domineering kind of person who always used to put him down. So when we went to that aspect and we worked on those aspects, and he was even able to forgive his father, he was able to reconcile. This is a genuine situation, I'm saying. He actually went and spoke to his father, but in the past, where he would have gone with his child victim mentality to talk to his father and get the same kind of response, I had helped him, encourage and empower him to grow into his adult personality, his adult persona of who he was and what he achieved, and go and relate to his father from that position rather than going as a child and getting a beating or getting a scolding. He went as an equal. He went in his whole stature and wholeness of himself, and he was able to forge a new relationship with his father after decades. And this consequently helped him in his workplace. He was able to be more forceful, more commanding, more able to communicate better, get into better relationships over there, and even reconcile the problems he had with his superiors. So that's an amazing transformation. I'm sure each of you would have small incidences like this where you can narrate. But I'm going to leave you with uh, all this. And if there is something that you have picked up from what I have discussed and described, I will be most happy to have shed some light on it. And I'm not sure how we go about from now. But thank you all for your patient listening.
Thank you, Dr. Jacqueline, for enlightening us with these wisdoms. Dear friends, if you have any question, you can type in the chat and we will take with Dr. Jacqueline. In the 12 obstacles of forgiveness, you mentioned victim identity. So if one has victim identity, what can be done or what need to be done?
Okay. The first thing is recognizing how detrimental victim identity is, because I've seen this in many people. When we start believing that the world is out to get us and we are a victim, our words and actions usually keep saying that, oh, he did something bad to me. I don't know what is going to happen again. We are expecting bad to happen to us, or we are expecting no good will happen to us. We have to remember, and I'm sure in your mind body medicine you would have mentioned, there is power in words. There is power in what we believe. So we have to consciously change our words. I am no longer a victim. I am a victor. What happened to me was in the past. I have the power to overcome that. I have overcome that. Saying positive things about it. I have overcome it. I have the power to overcome it. I am forgiving this person and releasing his hold over me. Because when we keep the grudge, when we keep the hurt and pain, you're allowing that person's action to have had a hold over you, and it's still keeping you captive. So you need to break that captivity. By breaking it is, I consciously decide to forgive you. I'm releasing you of that, and I'm claiming my victory. Saying these words, actually saying it, I am a victor, I am the owner of my identity, I'm the owner of my destiny, will actually help bring self-actualization through that. What do you think, Dr. Ranjan?
Yeah.
Yes.
I resonate with your words.
Yeah.
So
I think many people working in mind body medicine do understand the power of words. The words that we say, we should be, when we say a negative word, it's actually like a curse. It is to us also, because our consciousness does not know any other reality other than ourselves. For our consciousness, we are the only being. So when we say negative things about other people, or when we say negative things about ourselves, our consciousness believes it. So we need to change the language, change the language and the words we use.
Nice. So we have Dr. Vijay Girdhar with us. He's a practicing psychiatrist, and his question is, although this question is subjective, how many sessions are required usually to be healed?
Okay. Um, okay. It is subjective. It is subjective. It is one, it is depending on the relationship of the therapist, of the person whom you're talking to, your coach and yourself, and how soon you can get into that trusting relationship. So actually, for some people, it takes a few sessions for them to just develop the trust. Some people come with, because they know that this person is going to help me, they come with utmost trust. From the first session, they are free and open. And once the trust comes, and then we start digging and delving, because sometimes the main issue a person comes with may not be the real issue. So it takes a bit of time there, but I would say we would start to see some kind of progress within 4 sessions. We'll start to at least have identified most of the things and start to work on it. And the work is not just in a spiritual plane. The work is some practical things itself, because sometimes if it is inhibiting your personality, just saying, get out there and go and make a speech or prepare a speech, even voice modulation and voice practice helps. So I've done a lot of different things to help people impress themselves, because the most important person we need to impress is ourselves. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to love ourselves. We have to forgive ourselves. And when we think we are worthy enough, then we understand, we put it in perspective. I can forgive Tom, Dick, and Harry. It doesn't matter, because I am more important. I am more valuable. It's understanding that. Yes. So yes, at the very least 4 sessions. Maybe 8 to 12 generally, but at the very least 4.
Any other questions, friends? If you have, we get rare occasion to interact with such experts. So you can utilize the last 5-7 minutes.
Yeah, I like Sheetal Patel saying, I'm not victim, I'm victor. Absolutely. Absolutely. And is there any terminology like spiritual psychology, prepare for forgiveness? There is, as I said, Unbound is a good program that there are books on Unbound. It's the Christian perspective, from a Christian perspective. There you can search up the book. There are different books like that. So Unbound is one book written by Neil Lozano. I actually attended a conference recently and found that very beneficial in forgiveness. If you want to do it yourself, you can do that also. Okay.
And do you conduct some practical session, if we can do some practical process in the group for our audience?
I haven't actually done any group work with this, because it's mostly one-on-one, simply because, Dr. Ranjan, you don't know what all each one of us holds within us. We are an entire universe of pain and problems and things like that. And when you take, you're as a practitioner, you're privileged to take the journey with each of your patients or clients, because they are revealing to you parts of them that they have never revealed to someone else. Like in general, like what I've done right now, you can make a journal and write it. But the real healing happens when you hold their hand and actually are with them when they go into those dark places in their lives. And I've been there. See, I'm not talking as a preacher. I'm saying I've been there personally to many dark places. And I'm always in that process of healing myself and coming out the victor. Then again, doing that process.
We all have been there. And
yeah, we have all.
Through our experience only, we can help others.
Yeah.
Real...
See, that brings compassion, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, when I see your smile, Dr. Ranjan, I can see, when we have suffered pain, that comes in our face, in our smile, because we can empathize. We can empathize. Those who have not suffered deep pain find it hard to empathize with somebody else who has suffered.
Very true.
But you have suffered, you can.
And
what is about Judgment Day? Don't worry about Judgment Day. We have to live today first. God is a very loving God, very loving God, very forgiving God.
God is love.
God is love and God is forgiveness. And he teaches us to forgive. That is what in our Lord's Prayer say, forgive others so that I will forgive you. So forgiveness is linked to all that. And we become like God when we forgive. That's our godly nature, because we are divine, we are human, and we are divine. And the more we forgive, we are growing into that divine nature, divine self.
Dr. Gurpinder is asking, other person is in bitter mode.
You don't have to worry about the other person. Forgiveness is you detaching yourself from that person's actions to you, deciding to forgive, and covering and keeping your heart whole and safe. It is not about reconciliation. It is not about getting macha again together with that person. Forgiveness is the power that you have. Reconciliation, the two people need to be involved when to reconcile. Forgiveness you can do single-handed. Okay, forgiveness is single-handed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, friends, our time for meditation. Yes. We conduct meditation at the end, Dr. Jacqueline. So, if you conduct meditation, you can make us to meditate, or we can.
No, I don't conduct meditation. Can I leave you? Is it okay if I leave you now?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all of you. Really my privilege. Thanks. Namaste.